Now, we all know that he's a reticent legend, but Sachin Tendulkar has come out to hit out at the officials in his book who had accused him of ball tampering during India's tour of South Africa in the year 2001. He reveals that he was ready to leave the tour in between as if because they were questioning his credibility and integrity. The Master Blaster wrote he was just trying to get grass off the seam with his thumb, which was seen as ball tampering by referee Mike Dennis. Sachin also mentioned that none of the umpires lodged a complaint against him. Still, he was accused of cheating, something which he says was very humiliating as it questioned his credibility. Sachin lashed out at the match referee in his new book for questioning his credibility and integrity. The World Cup winner said the whole incident left a sour taste in everyone's mouth and it divided the whole cricketing world. We have Shivani Gupta joining us on the phone line for more on the story. Shivani, I understand that this book is going to be released soon on the 6th of November, and that's quite a revelation coming ahead of that.
Well, we always knew that, Sachin was extremely shocked and hurt with these allegations, but to hear of it in his own words is a first, because, Sachin normally doesn't talk to the media very much. In his playing days, he kept away from the media on most occasions, and this was a very troubling and very difficult time for Sachin as he's writing in his new book. In fact, he's used that exact word, saying that I had a very difficult time when the referee Mike Dennis alleged that I had been involved in ball tampering. He says he was shocked because I had always played cricket with integrity and honesty and would never do such a thing. So, it's interesting to hear of it in his own words. Sachin, usually not the one who spoke out very often during his playing days with the media, but he's using this book as an opportunity to set a few things straight, to talk about not just the good periods in his career, but also some of these instances that were a shock to everybody. I mean, I remember this time when somebody like Sachin Tendulkar was already considered, god of cricket at that time, cricket being the religion in our country, and it was shocking to everybody. And his legion of fans, of course, came out in support of him. His teammates came out in support of him, and of course, no one in the world really believed that Sachin did Sachin indulged in ball tampering knowingly. So that this is the one episode that he talks about quite in detail. And I think it's going to be quite interesting for his fans to read about just what he was going through at that time when he was accused of ball tampering, Aviral.
Definitely. Shivani, stay on with us. Also joining us on the phone this afternoon is Nikhil Chopra, former Team India player. Nikhil, Sachin speaking his mind. How do you read what he said in the current context of Indian cricket?
Well, at this moment in time, he was very hurt. Those times, and we were all very shocked because played with Tendulkar, been with him, and prior to when I was part of the side also, everybody, the entire cricketing fraternity looked up to him for the player that he was. He always played the sport there was such a thing called the perfect sportsmanship, fair and square, and people questioning him that he would indulge in ball tampering was a shock. Maybe at that moment in time the match referee got it wrong, and I'm sure it must have hurt Tendulkar because his credibility was questioned, that if Tendulkar is involved in match tampering ball tampering to try and win a match. That was, very, very unfortunate. And I'm glad that he's spoken about this in his book, because we all know Tendulkar all his life, for the glorious years of cricket that we've seen from Tendulkar, he has never done any such thing that would bring the sport into disrepute, or for that matter, even himself. So, it was very shocking for all of us at that moment in time. In our heart of hearts, we all knew that I'm sure the match referees got it wrong.
Nikhil, Sachin himself says that none of the umpires had lodged a formal complaint against him, and that it was humiliating to be labelled a cheat. Going back to 2001, how do you recall how the incident played out in the media and just what the perception had been at that time?
Well, we were all very shocked, and the people are saying that he was picking the seam, and there was video footage. It was actually, if you think about it, it was actually cleaning the dirt off that cricket seam. Because if anybody knows Tendulkar, who played with him, Tendulkar barely had nails to actually go outside and pick the stitching on the leather of the ball. So we all knew this is not true, because we played with him, and everybody, people who played with him knew that he couldn't do it, because he never had the nails to go outside and pick the seam of the ball. And even if he did, with the man, the sportsman that Tendulkar is, he would never indulge into anything like this.
Nikhil, Shivani, do stay on with us. We also have Kirti Azad joining us on the phone line. Mr. Azad, I hope you've got an inkling of what really Sachin Tendulkar has spoken about in his autobiography, which is going to be released on the 6th of November. He says, "I'm no cheat. It was humiliating to be labelled as one at that time." Going back to 2001, how do you recall what had happened, and how really do you see Sachin talking about it himself?
Well, I actually was seeing that live, and I could never imagine in my wildest of dreams that whether if Sachin was tampering with the ball. It's a very normal practice. If you have a cloth around, at times the cloth doesn't do well. If it's wet, then yes, cloth does a good job. But then when you have dirt getting in, and that is a sticky mud, sometimes on the pitch or on the sides, it's a special mud that is used, soil that is used for pitches, and that is very thick and gets stuck. So I think it was simply he was removing that. Everybody else does it. It's nothing new. But I suppose that very silly mindset, and I would feel that it also could be to upset Sachin, because such a great player, that upset him in the very beginning, so that he's not able to go and concentrate on his batting. So obviously, I never in my wildest of dreams can imagine that a person like the stature of Sachin Tendulkar would at all be involved. It's really hilarious, and very correctly written by Sachin, and he's a man of honor. And that's why we also see that he said that he was contemplating leaving the series in between.
All right, Mr. Azad, thank you very much for joining us with your opinion there. Shivani, it's also said that the incident really divided the whole cricketing world. How really did that happen, and what really has changed since?
Well, it's when a referee raises a question like that, obviously there are sides that want to get to the bottom of that. But what was very interesting about this case, Avril, is that while referee Mike Dennis talked about that Sachin had indulged in ball tampering, there was actually no official charge made against him, which was actually further complicating the issue, because you then can't fight the allegation. In fact, that's what Sachin talks about in his book as well, that I wasn't prepared to let it pass. I had informed Mike Dennis, he says, that I would complain about the allegation and would not keep quiet about it. He was prepared to abandon the tour if need be, but wasn't ready to be labelled a cheat. So he actually found himself in a very tricky situation where there was no official charge made, yet he was labelled a cheat, and there was no opportunity given to him, as would be under an official charge, to defend himself. It divided the world because, obviously there are people who were furious with such a charge, and then how it should be taken forward. There was no official charge made. It basically just became a bit of a crisis, a mini crisis at that time, when somebody of the stature of Sachin Tendulkar is being alleged to have ball tampered, but yet there are no proceedings and so on and so forth. So that, I think, became very, very interesting in this case, because Sachin felt that he's been labelled a cheat and that could stay with him, but he's not being given the opportunity to actually defend himself. But in his autobiography, which is due to come out on November 6th, he's kind of made his line very, very clear. He talks about how this was an avoidable incident and this shouldn't have happened. Mike Dennis's decision was, he says, led to a crisis that ended up dividing the world. But he also very interestingly says that he was prepared to leave the tour. It was about honor, and there was no way I would allow a match referee to cast aspersions on his credibility. So that's the most important thing coming out, and I think it resonates the way Sachin has dealt with his career throughout. As I mentioned, he normally doesn't react to the media very often. He's a quiet person, doesn't get involved in controversies, but this was one which he couldn't avoid, because a match referee himself had laid certain aspersions on his credibility. His new book also talks about several other episodes in his life, but I think this is going to be a big, big excerpt from the book, where fans would be interested to know just what Sachin felt at that time. He himself coming out and saying that he almost contemplating leaving the tour, that he was very upset, he wasn't going to just let it pass. I think these are things that we'd not really heard from him in as many words before.
All right, Shivani and Nikhil, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon with that story there. We'll keep a close eye on the other reactions that we get. That autobiography, of course, releasing on the 6th of November.